Alright, now for the video games. So, have you ever wanted to be an astronaut, or maybe a space scientist, or build your own spacecraft? Well, there's a game that's been around for a long time, well, since 2011, and it's just recently been released as a full game out of beta, and it's called Kerbal Space Program. And if you've been in the gaming scene on YouTube, or just playing lots of games on Steam and everything like that, well, Kerbal Space Program, or KSP, has been around for a while, and it's been making waves and gained recognition as sort of a space simulator sort of thing. So what's the game about? Well, you play on a planet a lot like Earth called Kerbin, and you control these Kerbals, and they're sort of dim-witted sort of, but still smart enough to build spaceships sort of characters, and sort of alien-looking characters. And the idea of the game is you do some research, you build some spaceships, and you conduct space missions and collect science and progress yourself through the whole astrophysics of the space exploration. So, is the game any good? It's been around for a long time, but has it actually changed since release? Well, let's jump in and take a look. So, what's the gameplay like? Well, jumping into the game, it can be completely overwhelming because there's just so much to understand, and the physics and the simulations of space exploration and controlling a spaceship and flying it through space out of the atmosphere to other planets, landing it, it's all really, really difficult. Thankfully, there is a comprehensive tutorial to give you a big overview of how everything's supposed to work. I mean, just as an example, how do you get your spaceship from one planet to another? Well, this is how it explains it. You have to sort of lift off of your main planet, and then you have to create an orbit. Just getting into orbit around your planet is hard enough already. But then you have to expand your orbit in one direction so it wraps around the other celestial body. And as it wraps around, you sort of want to bring it close to the surface, and as you launch yourself over in that direction, well, you do sort of get caught up by the gravity of the other satellite or thing out in space. So once you're caught by the gravity, then you can control yourself, bring yourself down, and land nice and gentle. Sounds complicated, might sound easy at first, but well, crash landing, I've done it a lot. So, well, what's some of the good points of the game? Well, first of all, the physics simulation of the game is really, really good. The way it simulates the center of mass, center of gravity, and the center of thrust, just balancing your rocket, just getting all the parts, it's really, really accurate, and it feels really rewarding when you actually manage to get your spaceship up into space and to do something useful. And it's just overall a fun game. There's three sort of main play modes. There's one which is sandbox mode, where you just get freedom, all the parts, or infinite money. You just get to do whatever you want, build spaceships, send them out, do all sorts of things like that. Then there's sort of a, you could consider that easy mode. Then there's sort of a medium mode called science mode, where you have to sort of, you start out with only limited number of parts, and you have to send out your spacecrafts and conduct experiments and try and achieve mission objectives and stuff like that. And as you get science points, you can use those points to buy new technologies and new parts for your spaceships. But then there's the whole career campaign mode, and this is sort of the full-fledged game where you don't just have to research and collect science, you have to manage your money and funding and sponsorship and your reputation. So if you keep crashing and killing your Kerbals, well, then your reputation is going to drop and your investors aren't going to give you so much money. So there's this big career campaign mode in the background as well, and that's really, really cool. So some of the things that might be a little frustrating with the game is if you're not the sort of patient, sort of, I like to build things really, really carefully and make sure things fly up really, really nicely, then it might get very, very frustrating in this game because you're going to struggle. And if you're the type to skip the tutorial, well, you're going to have a bad time because the tutorial is essential for understanding how this game works. So it's a really, really tough game, but it is really rewarding, and you definitely have to check that one out. So, is Kerbal Space Program gonna be for you? Well, if you really like space simulations, building your own spaceships and conducting science experiments by flying off to other places in the solar system, then you are going to love Kerbal Space Program. And even if you're a parent out there who wants to get their kids into some sort of educational aspects of science and space and rocketry and stuff like that, well, Kerbal Space Program is going to be perfect for that, because it manages to not just create an accurate simulation through the physics engine and all of that, but it's actually fun, having the Kerbins and Kerbals and all of that, and it's not so monotonous, tedious, or bland as some other space sims out there, which really rely on numbers and statistics and all of that sort of thing, even though Kerbal Space Program does have its fair share of numbers and statistics. But overall, the game is around 70 to 80 ringgit on Steam, and that's not too much for something that's really impressive, actually. And it's been around since 2011, and since its final release in 2015, it seems to be bug-free and feature complete, so it's all working as intended. All right, so before we go, I'm going to thank our wonderful host here, Calories KL at Sri Harthamas.
Oh, it's hot outside. And it's the end of another episode of Gadget Nation, but don't worry, because I'll be back same time, same place next week. But in the meantime, why don't you log on to our Facebook page? You can just look up Gadget Nation, because we put up videos 2, 3 times, sometimes 4 times a week, giving you more updates on what's happening in the world of video games or anything tech related, just to keep you updated on what's happening, really. So if that confuses you, don't worry, it's also reposted on the Astro Wani page, and all the links are there as well. In the meantime, big shout out to Calories here in Harthamas for hosting us. We love you guys. But my name is Adam Carruthers, signing off for now. See you next week.